Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Thursday, May the 11th, 2017. Good to have you all here for our second of two shows this week. As always, as we start the show, let me remind you all the ways in which you can interact and contribute to our show. Have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And of course, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook and make sure you like our fan page once you find it, or once you're on it, I should say. All right, so here we are for our second of two shows this week. My apologies again for the late start. You all know what we've been dealing with. And tonight was no exception. Once again, had some issues getting on. Again, just bear with us. Hopefully it'll work itself out sooner rather than later. We're all very frustrated, but nonetheless, again, it is what it is. We just bear with us. That's one of the reasons why I don't really mention on Facebook and Twitter that we're going to be delayed, because I think by now everybody kind of figures that there's going to be some kind of delay. So hopefully this situation will rectify itself. I keep working on it. I keep asking for suggestions. I keep researching it. And, some people, I've actually spoken to some people who are having similar problems. So it's good to know it's not just us. So we'll all kind of try to figure this thing out and get to the bottom of it. But anyway, we'll just keep bearing with us, and hopefully we can get this figured out at some point. But we just kind of muddle through and just try to get the shows on the air, and that's all that matters, is getting a show on the air and getting what we have to get done or doing these shows. So that's what we try to do. We try to get the shows on. We do get the shows on, and and at least we can do that much. So yeah, just keep bearing with us, and thank you again for your patience and your understanding. As we keep going with this, because it's been rough. I know for a lot of people it's frustrating. For us, it's frustrating, and it's upsetting, because we want to be on the air on time. We want to get the show off done, and we want to get the show going at a proper time and not have to go so late, and it's just frustrating. It really is. So thank you for bearing with us these last few weeks, and hopefully we can rectify this soon, so you don't have to keep bearing with us and keep staying up with us and having shows go late and such. So again, we're working on it, and as always, if there's anything that any of you out there want to suggest, or if there's any other problems that are going on with the show, please do let us know. Email us, Facebook us, tweet us, whatever you have to do. All right, so tonight we do not have a long show for you all tonight, which is probably a good thing. We'll do our usual entertainment stuff, box office, BTV highlights. Tonight, I mentioned that we might do something special, and we are we're going to set up something we're going to do next week on Tuesday, which is we're going to start to kind of go into what's going to be happening this in a new TV season. Next week will be Upfront week, and as has been the tradition over the last few years, the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday before Upfront week is usually nothing but renewals and cancellations. It used to be that you'd hear about renewals and cancellations during the season, and then you'd have a few bubble shows last to the end. Well, that's no longer the case. It's been the case the last maybe 2-3 years. The week before Upfronts is when you usually start to hear about a majority of shows, even shows that you would think are guaranteed to be renewed. They're now hanging out and waiting on, because the landscape has changed in a lot of ways. Now some shows with bad ratings get renewed because they have a Netflix deal, or and it makes them a lot of money, or they get renewed because of other things, and then shows that should be renewed don't, because of other reasons. So there's a lot of things that go into it. We'll probably get into a little bit of it later, but again, it's a changing landscape, just like movies. Now everything changes over time, and you've seen that. And now the week before is again a steady stream of renewals and cancellations, and we've seen that primarily over the last 2 days. And we'll talk about some of those renewals, cancellations, some of the big surprises, because there's a few, along with some of the ones that were no-brainers and that kind of thing. So we'll talk a little bit about that and set the stage for Upfront week next, because right now the decisions are coming out about what stays, what goes, what gets picked up. Next week, it's about the scheduling, because it's always a two-prong approach here. It's first, what stays, what goes, what do we pick up? as far as new shows go. And then you get into how we're going to schedule this. It's a two-prong approach now. And now it kind of splits up, like I said, with renewals and cancellations and pickups this week. And then next week we find out a little bit more about the schedule as the networks unveil their plans. So kind of like a part one and a part two, if you will. And this will be part one. We'll give you a little bit of insight into that tonight. And that's all we're going to do tonight. So that's what's on tap. Before I get into next week, my co-host Mike is on the air. Mike, how you doing? In the spotlight over there.
Why were you late?
Folks, we're just going to have to get used to the idea that I have to explain to Mike that we have a technical problem that is still yet to be resolved. And until that's resolved,
then you should start earlier then.
How can I start earlier?
Maybe start at 8:30. So maybe you could be on by 9:30.
I had to work, Mike, and I have other things I have other responsibilities. So 9 o'clock is, now that once we change the schedule to 9 o'clock, that kind of ship sailed a little bit. But yeah,
it's on you then.
It's on me whether it's my fault or not. So I just accept it. Because that's just the way it goes. But anyway, as I was saying at the top of the show, hopefully, we got to get through next week, and then we got Tuesday and the following week, and then we're off for almost 2 weeks. So hopefully within these next couple of weeks it gets resolved. But regardless, it is what it is. I don't want to get into it. All right. So I mentioned what's coming up tonight. Next week, 2 shows. Tuesday, Sports Entertainment Combo Edition. Obviously, we'll talk NBA playoffs. We'll talk a little bit MLB. Any other sports headlines we have to cover. Entertainment, box office beat, TV highlights. We won't do any wrestling because we say that for Thursday. And then next Thursday, of course, like I said, the all wrestling show previewing WWE's Backlash pay-per-view, SmackDown exclusive pay-per-view. We'll talk about the matches, make predictions, of course, do questions and comments from the fans. If you have a question or comment you'd like to submit, you may do so before the show or, of course, during the show next Thursday as well. We'll have a lot to talk about in addition to the pay-per-view. There's a lot of stuff going on, some of which I texted to my co-host this morning. So we'll talk a little bit about that stuff next week because I'm sure we'll get into more of that next week. So, but we'll leave all that for next week. So that's what's coming up next week. And then, as I said, the week after that, we'll only have one show. That will be on Tuesday, and that will be another Sports Entertainment Combo Edition. And again, that Thursday will be preempted, and will be preempted the entire week the following week. So real reminder of what's to come here. So just keep all that in mind. As is the case for any show, whether it's sports or entertainment, even though it's an entertainment show, we will keep you up to date on any big sports things and NBA playoffs obviously going on. And tonight we had a game 6. And look, I told you all the other night we were on the air that if the Rockets didn't win that game, I thought that they were done. That was their chance. Well, it really was their chance because the Spurs came out without Kawhi Leonard tonight and have dominated from start to finish here. They are now up 104-72 with 5:43 left. I'm not even going to score update it because I think the Spurs are going to run away with this. So it looks like the Rockets lost their chance, and it looks like San Antonio is going to have a date with Golden State next week, which is not really too shocking if you think about it. So last night the Celtics took their game 6. Took their game 5, I should say, in dominant fashion as well. So the teams that we all thought would pull through are getting the job done. I think the same thing's going to happen for the Celtics tomorrow. I think they're just going to finish this thing out, just like the Spurs did. I think, game 5s have a way of breaking a team. And I think you're seeing that. You saw this with Houston. I think you'll see the same thing with Washington. So, but yeah, 108-72 Spurs with almost 4 minutes left in the fourth. So it looks like the Spurs well on their way to a date with Golden State in the Western Conference Finals. So just want to keep you up there on that. Usually I give you score updates throughout, but I don't think I'm going to need to do this, any further because this game's a blowout. Really quickly off the top of the show, I want to mention another sports-related topic really quick because it's a sad story. For anybody that, has watched ESPN for years. Chris Berman, and obviously, he's kind of been put to the background a little bit. He's kind of been pushed out. He's been kind of pushed out more or less over the last couple of years. But for those that do not know, Chris Berman, his wife passed away in a car accident on Tuesday night. So we obviously want to extend our condolences and our thoughts and prayers to Chris Berman and his entire family, his children. Just a horrible, horrible tragedy. And for the other victim of that accident, too, we want to express our thoughts and condolences to his family as well. May they both rest in peace. Both victims, Chris Berman's wife and, of course, the other victim in the accident, may they both rest in peace. A tremendous tragedy. And just a sad, sad, sad story. And I heard about it last night, almost 24 hours after it happened, and I just didn't see anything about it. But I just thought we should mention that at the top of the show. So, all right. Again, so as we get into things here, we have the box office, which is what we're going to start with. And look, there's not much we can talk about here. We all knew what would be the dominant force this weekend. We all knew this past weekend, I should say. We knew that this past weekend was going to belong to Guardians, and that's exactly what happened. Now, look, the storyline that's going to come out of this weekend is going to be, well, why didn't Guardians hit what people thought it would? Why didn't Guardians do what people thought it would, which is hit potentially 175, 180 million on the low end, 200, 210 million on the high end? The short answer is I don't know. When you look at what this movie did versus the first one, it's a great total. And it's a great total no matter which way you look at it. I think that one of the things that has happened in the last few years, okay, is that we've fallen into a trap here when it comes to a trap here of overhyping things. I think I mentioned this a couple years ago when Age of Ultron didn't do as huge as the first Avengers, and everybody's like, well, what happened? And I remember talking about how that was a big sports weekend. There was a lot of competition. Ultimately, Age of Ultron in the long term ended up doing about what people would have expected to do anyway. And then Jurassic World went and blew through records and beat Avengers, and that was a month later. And then last year, people thought Civil War might do what the first Avengers did, and it didn't. And then everybody questioned that. And now you see Guardians, and going into it, everybody was saying, oh, it's tracking towards 170, 180 million. Oh, it could potentially get to 200. It could be the one movie that breaks Jurassic World's record. We heard it going in, and the potential was there for it, yes. But ultimately, I think you have to remember something. This movie stands on its own. It's an entity. The Avengers, Jurassic World had a nostalgia thing, plus schools were out at that point. That was a special circumstance. But when the Avengers came out, it was multiple heroes, different fan groups coming together. Not every fan is a fan of every single thing in Marvel. There might be a fan of Captain America that doesn't like Thor. There might be a fan of Thor that doesn't like Iron Man. You get them all together, and what do you get? You get a mismatch, and you bring in people that maybe you wouldn't have been able to see. And plus, that was a special movie. It was the first time it had happened. Guardians, while very popular and fan pleasing and no doubt, mainstream now, is not the Avengers. Does that mean it can't pull in Avengers money? Absolutely not. But it also means too that it has to have a hook. A lot of people want to see Guardians, yes. But did enough people want to see it that were willing to deal with the long lines, deal with a packed theater? Maybe they weren't. There are some people that won't deal with those things because because they just don't feel like it's worth it. Now, if it's an event movie like the last movie in a franchise or the first one or something, they might. I think a lot of people did that with Revenge because it was the first time and they didn't want to get caught behind. But Guardians, I think people figured some people might have figured they can wait for it. I can wait till Monday or Tuesday to see it. See, because ultimately, and I've said this off the air, and I've said this numerous times on the air, if a movie's good enough, overall, it will still make what people expect it to make. Ultimately, in most cases. Now, in most cases, it will. Now, very rarely, some cases it might not. But again, I just lost my train of thought. That's what happens sometimes. Yeah, in most cases, a movie will make what it's supposed to make in the long term, but it might not have that big opening weekend. Time and time again, I've seen people freak out when a movie doesn't break an opening weekend record. But then when you look at the end of its run, you see that it made this amount of money that the studio would have thought it would have anyway. Now, I know we live in this age that you want that opening weekend headline because you want that record. And look, records are going to be continuously broken because prices keep going up. I don't think that to me, it matters more where you end up rather than where you start. Sometimes, in some cases, the headlines of having that opening weekend can help a movie make more money. Yes, so I do understand in some cases, but for a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy or an Avengers or any major franchise, you don't need that headline to make money. You're going to make that money no matter what, as long as your movie is good. And Guardians don't have to worry about that. We've seen it. It's good. So, there could be a number of reasons. People just didn't rush out to see it. Maybe again, I think Marvel has to get ahead on this get ahead on the idea, or I shouldn't say get ahead. That's a poor choice of words. I think Marvel has to start thinking about how it's impacting, how the fact that they have movies being released internationally a week before domestic is impacting their domestic growth. Because it's become apparent over the last couple years, okay, that their opening weekend numbers are always a little off, and on the lower end of things. And to me, that could be a very clear sign, especially since they end up making the amount of money they expected them to make anyway. Just don't get the opening weekend they wanted. So to me, I think they need to start looking at this and realizing, I'm trying to put my words very close. I want to make sure I explain what I'm saying the right way. They have to look at this and start wondering if pirating is hurting these opening weekends. Because the one thing I will say is piracy doesn't tend to hurt a movie in the long term. It tends to hurt a movie in the short term. There's people that might want to see the movie and they just can't wait to see the movie. It's up there. They go check it out. And then they go a couple weeks later and they see it again in the theater. So I do think piracy could be hurting their opening weekend. And this is something that Marvel has to get a handle on. I think that they should start looking at it. I don't see any appeal in rolling out a movie internationally a week or two before it opens domestic. I think it should all open at once. I really do. I've always been a believer in that. I don't understand why movies either open later or I don't understand that. That's just another reason for it. But other than, maybe just being held up or something. But I don't subscribe to that thing. I don't think it's a smart idea. But again, I think this could be hurting their opening weekends. So my opinion is they got to look at that because that could be a problem too. But ultimately, like I said, there could be a number of reasons why this could have happened. It could just be people wanted to wait to see it. They didn't want to rush out. They didn't want to deal with the crowds. Maybe there were some people that were worried about it and wanted to see how it did the first weekend. Maybe there's some people that were worried about it, didn't know if it was going to be as good as the first one. I don't know. But ultimately, when a movie makes $146.5 million, you don't look at it as a negative. And it's already over $500 million. So it's going to be fine. It's at 501.7. So it's well on pace to what we all thought it would be, which is $1 billion. So, did it disappoint in some ways as far as the growth? Yes, but I think in the long term, it's going to make exactly what we all thought it would anyway. So I don't worry about it. Outside of Guardians, there was not much to talk about here. Fate of the Furious dropped from first to second, 8.5 million, 57% drop off. And then you had Boss Baby move up from fourth to third with 5.9 million. And then How to Be a Latin Lover drops from second to fourth, 5.1 million. Beauty and the Beast moves up from sixth to fifth with a little over 5 million. So, and that was it. Everything else was under 5 million, which again, we expected everything else to kind of drop off. And it did. It was Guardians dominated. That's what we all thought would happen. So all in all, it ends up being a great weekend at the box office because of one movie. But you look at some of these other holdovers, did very well. Fate of Furious still did well in its fourth week. Boss Baby and Beauty and the Beast continue to do very well. And How to Be a Latin Lover actually did pretty decent for its second week and actually gained 85 theaters and only dropped off 58%. So all in all, ends up being a good weekend at the box office overall, which again, for the start of the summer, you expected. And everybody should be happy, even if Guardians didn't do as much as people would have thought. So now you go into a weekend, the second weekend of May, which has become notorious for some of the bigger summer movie flops. Because the movie that came out the week before is usually a big movie. It usually repeats as number one. Or sometimes it might surprise and do even better than expected, which hurts whatever comes out the next weekend. So, so usually, unless you have a proven property like a Star Trek or something, the second weekend of May might not be good to you. Or Neighbors, like a comedy or something. Comedies tend to break the curse a little bit, but if you're a big budget action movie or such, you tend to have a rough time. And we do have a big budget action adventure movie coming out this weekend that has summer flop written all over. I called it a couple weeks ago, and I think it will be a flop. And that movie coming out this weekend is the biggest release of the weekend. That's King Arthur, Legend of the Sword from Warner Brothers, opening in 3,702 theaters. Directed by Guy Ritchie. Starring Charlie Putnam, Jude Law, $175 million budget, PG-13. This movie, to me, I guess its saving grace could be internationally. It might end up pulling in a decent international total. That might end up helping it. But ultimately, at least, for sure domestically, I don't think it's going to do very well at all. Look, Guardians is going to be number one, far and away. The question is, what's going to be number two? And look, you look at last week's holdovers; they're all going to be well below 10 million. So it's one of these two movies, either King Arthur or Snatch, is going to be number two and number three, regardless of how well they do. So, but I just don't see King Arthur's clearly not going to be number one, and whether it's a short term or a long term, I don't expect a good number. So. The second biggest release is Snatch, the comedy from Fox, opening in 3,501 theaters. So both movies opening in pretty good amount of theaters there. Both new releases, I should say. Starring Amy Schumer and Goldie Hawn. Goldie Hawn hasn't done a movie in a while, and now she's back in the fold here. This is an R-rated comedy, which there hasn't been too many of them. And, they've got, in the last few years, they've become a very popular commodity. And its production budget is $42 million, so it doesn't need a lot. And look, to me, this movie has a very good chance at being in second place and doing okay. Only because Amy Schumer is very popular, and Goldie Hawn will bring in some of the older audience. And look, as I've said before, comedies have a better chance at breaking the second weekend of May curse than adventure action movies. Okay, so I could see this. This is going to appeal to women. I could see this doing well and getting between 15, 20 million and taking second place. I think it stands a better shot at than King Arthur does. So we'll see. That's just something that I could see happening. In fact, that's going to be my prediction. So, all right, so let's do the prediction because there really isn't much else to say. There's no other new releases other than those two movies. So Guardians of the Galaxy, I do predict will be number one by a landslide. I'm thinking around 70 to 80 million, somewhere in there. Could be a little lower, maybe a little higher, but generally in that range for Guardians of the Galaxy at number one. I'm going to go with Snatched at number two. I'm going to go from anywhere from 18 to 20 million. I think that seems like a good bet for it. Could be a little less. I don't think it'll be much more than that. King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, I think is going to totally tank. I'd be shocked if it didn't. I'm going with about 12 to 15 million, somewhere in that range. Could be even lower than that. But I don't expect higher. And then everything else will be under 10 million. Fate of the Furious will probably be around 6, 7 million. Beauty and the Beast and Boss Baby will finally probably drop below 5 million. So how to be a list. So I think it's going to be only 1, 2, 3, 4 movies over 5 million. So Guardians at 1 with around 70, 80 million. Snatched at 2 between 18, 20 million. King Arthur at 3 with around 12 to 15 million. And then Fate of the Furious, I think, in 4th, around 6, 7 million. And everything else, I think, will be under 5 million for this weekend. That's where I see it panning out this weekend. Mike, any thoughts on the box office last week, this week, any week?
No.
Okay.
Guardians is great.
Cool beans. All right, so that covers this week. Next week, when we get together, when we preview the box office, we'll have 3 new releases, all of which, well, 2 of which I think will do well, and the other one could be one of the flops of the summer. Alien Covenant, which I think will do okay. I don't think it'll do great, but I think it'll do okay. Everything, which I think could be a surprise. And Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which I think could end up being a flop. We'll talk about all those movies next week, and of course talk about what happened this upcoming weekend as well. So all that, of course, we'll do next Tuesday when we do our next box office beat. All right, so from the box office, we go to TV highlights. I'm going to be very quick. This is where I'm going to make up some time. Couple things I want to highlight. First of all, I want to highlight Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this week because I got to get the fanboy moment out of the way. Incredible episode, so well. Of course, Kevin Tancherin directed it, which you could tell by the way it was directed. You worry about, after having such a great run with the Framework arc, you worry about a letdown. They didn't let down. It was a brilliant hour, and I especially want to highlight Mary Jensen, who has been phenomenal all season, essentially playing 3 or 4 different characters. And in this episode, she was astounding how good she was. And there's one scene in there that's so quiet and so one of the best scenes I think I've ever seen on this show as far as acting. And of course, Ian DeCostrecker and Elizabeth Henstridge both were highlights in this episode too. Fantastic acting in this episode, really. And really set up the finale this week really well. There's some good stuff that they got there, and hopefully they bring it home. They set up some good stuff. So it was a good episode this week for them. A good episode for Gotham this week. I'm focusing again on Enigma, who has really come in. They really finally got the character going where he needs to go. They also had some good, some interesting things with Selena Kyle, which was a ripoff out of a movie essentially. But hey, they needed to be done. I'm glad they're finally doing it because they really had no place else to go with her. And the Bruce stuff continued to be good. So it was a good solid hour. The Penguin stuff progressed. I find, again, it feels like we're a Batman show now. The villains have kind of come into their own. We're not, Gordon, yeah, you got the Gordon stuff, but it's a part of the Court of Owls, so I can deal with it now. It's not about his love life and all this other garbage. Like, it feels like a Batman show now. So that appeals to me now. So I'm glad that it's finally going in that direction. What else is there? I didn't watch Blacklist last week, so I can't talk about that. What else did I watch this week? I'm trying to think of what I caught up on, what I didn't catch up on. I'm trying to leave some of the stuff that you might talk about, so I don't want to repeat it. I can't think of anything else, so Mike, go ahead. Your TV highlights. I think I'm done. I think for now I'm done. Oh, that scared me.
All right. I suppose it's my turn to talk finally, right?
A.
And I will talk really briefly. I haven't had a chance to watch an awful lot of television this week. Start off by saying Doctor Who, a fantastic episode. The story is leading to somewhere interesting.
Uh-huh.
This week we got more development of Bill. And of course the Doctor was excellent as usual. And we're learning more about what the Doctor and Nardole are actually guarding. It's something. So It was a fantastic episode. I enjoyed it a whole lot. Class was okay. I don't think that show is going to be coming back, but Class is. It was all right. It was just all right. They're really trying to teens, but they're trying to adult it up, so it's weird. Murdoch Mysteries or Artful Detective on Ovation. They had their season finale. This is what Canada got like a while ago. It was a cliffhanger. There are lots of threads that need to be resolved, and most of these characters have plot armor. So it's weird. Some of their choices were weird, and we know that it's going to be resolved in some way. Like in which all the characters that are named and popular and main characters are going to be fine. I'm all right with it. Excuse me, it's a good resolution. Another cliffhanger, customary for the series. That's it. I really haven't had a chance to watch. So I got Arrow, I got Flash. Speechless last week was pretty good. There were some awkward moments, of course, but it was dealing with. So there's that.
Okay.
Can't complain. I mean, I haven't seen an awful lot of television this week, so I'm a little behind.
Okay. All right. So I thought there was something else I wanted to mention, but I can't think of it, so I'll just have to leave it at that. All right. So we mentioned some TV highlights. We didn't do as many as we usually do because, again, I can't remember, and he's Mike's behind. But for some people, I imagine if you're behind on some shows, sometimes one thing that can determine whether you actually want to catch up on shows or not is whether they actually stay on the air or get renewed. That's one of the things when I want to check out new shows or shows that I haven't tried yet. I like to see if they're going to actually last because I don't want to waste my time. But like I said, lately in the past couple of years, it's become a thing where they wait until the last minute to renew most shows, and that's what we're seeing this year. And over the last couple of days, there's been several pieces of news in regards to renewals and cancellations. Let's start with what's happened today first, because it's been a whirlwind. ABC's been holding out all week, and they finally came out with theirs today. They've been kind of like the last network to kind of get going here. Over the last 10 minutes, it's been announced that Dancing with the Stars, The Bachelor, and Shark Tank have all been renewed. Shock. Here you go, Mike. And in case you were wondering, because they never officially said this, Conviction and Notorious are now officially canceled.
Yeah.
Because they never actually said it. Now they've actually said it.
Mm-hmm.
So they've also picked up a drama called The Good Doctor starring Freddie Highmore. Blackish has been renewed by ABC. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Designated Survivor, American Housewife, and Once Upon a Time have been renewed. Once Upon a Time is a little bit of a surprise. A week ago, I wouldn't have said that, but I think Jennifer Morrison is leaving. And I thought they might pull a Casso here because one of the things you were hearing was they're going to reboot it next season because they're doing this whole Final Battle thing this week, I guess. And I guess now I'm hearing they're going to that they're going to reboot it, and they were going to do it with Jennifer Morrison. Now she's leaving, so a lot of people thought they might not bother with it and do like Castle did last year, which is, hey, we're just going to end it. Guess they're not going to do that. So we'll see. But those have all been renewed. The Catch has been The Catch has been canceled. So has American Crime, Secrets and Lies, Imaginary Mary, and Dr. Ken. The Real O'Neills has also been canceled. ABC picked up an untitled comedy. It used to be called Startup, but now it's untitled, starring Zach Braff. So he's back on ABC. They got 4 pilots to go to series as dramas: The Crossing, For the People, The Mayor, and The Gospel of. I just lost what the title of that show is. It's cut off here. Where is it? right here. The Gospel of Kevin. So those are couple dramas and comedies that they picked up to go to series. So that's the ABC news. So a lot of ABC news. NBC had a few other additions today to add to what they did yesterday. They officially canceled Powerless, which we all kind of suspected because they've been pulling episodes. What else is there? Good Girls is a new show that got a series order from NBC. They've also retitled their military drama series Forgotten Country. It's now called The Brave. Great News is renewed for a second season, which kind of surprises me because I didn't think they would do that. Another ABC show that I forgot to mention, Goldberg's got renewed, which is not a shock. Let's see here. Couple of cable series orders. I know I'm dancing around here. Superman prequel Krypton has been picked up at Sci-Fi, and a comedy called Smilf at Showtime has been picked up. Fox canceled Son of Zorn, making history in APB today. Not really shocking. Blacklist got renewed yesterday. Last Man Earth and Gotham are renewed at Fox. Black Lightning, a new DC live-action show, and Life Sentence have been ordered to series by the CW. Last Man Standing got canceled, which was a really big surprise because it wins its time slot on Friday. As soon as that was gone, I think it was a given that Dr. Ken was gone. The Originals and iZombie were renewed at CW. Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and Chicago Med renewed at NBC. Modern Family got a 2-season pickup that will get them through season 10 after a very tough negotiation with the cast. Vera was picked up to series by CW. Timeless got canceled by NBC. Dynasty Reboot got pushed to series by CW. Blind Spot got renewed, which surprised some people. Let's see. Scandal was announced it's going to end next season. That's a creative decision, not network one. NBC also announced a live version of Jesus Christ Superstar for Easter 2018, in addition to Bye Bye Birdie in December. That's all pickups. I don't want to get into too many pickups. It was also announced that Donald Glover will be writing and executive producing a Deadpool animated show for FX. It's set for 2018. And that, I think, is the bulk of everything. So I'm not... Oh, Sleepy Hollow got canceled as well, finally. So that's... I think will about do it. And Gifted, the X-Men Marvel show... the Marvel X-Men show that has been ordered to series by Fox, and Taken got renewed for season 2, but with a new showrunner. All right, so those are all the big highlights. So let's bring up the surprises first. Taken, Blind Spot, and Last Man Standing. On the negative side, Last Man Standing. That show wins its time slot. It had a nice little ratings boost this season. A lot of people surprised us. Now, here's the key to this, okay? Tim Allen is not cheap. He's had a proven track record. He's not cheap. And this cast is not cheap. They got Nancy Travis, Hector Elizondo. Not cheap. Okay? Secondly, it's not owned by ABC. It's owned by Fox. And if you look back, every season since season 2 has been a tough negotiation to stay on the air for Last Man Standing. Eventually, it was going to come to an end. Now, we are headed towards an era where networks want to own these shows because with streaming, Netflix, and everything, streaming deals are single-handedly keeping some shows alive because of the way ratings are going. So, if you own the show, like if ABC owns the show, whatever, and they get a streaming deal or they get a syndicated deal, they completely get the benefits of that. They don't have to split. It's all theirs. So it makes more sense to own the show. Or have these shows you own have most of these shows you own on your network, and that way you it's more lucrative. So I think ultimately what happened was a combination of show's not cheap, okay, and they didn't own it. And I think that's really the bottom line. And look, it's 6 seasons. It's a good run. It's a great run. So would it surprise me if Fox picks this show up? No. Because they own it, and it does well. For a Friday night, it did terrific. So that one was a surprise for a lot of people. And could it get a pickup? I suppose it could. For somebody else, it could. More than likely Fox because they own it, but Now Taken and Blind Spot were big surprises. Now Blind Spot, if you go back season 1, it wouldn't have been a surprise to even get picked up, but they lost so much audience this season, so much audience. And NBC has picked up a lot of dramas to series. A lot of people wondered where they were going to go. So something had to go, and ultimately, I think what you're seeing is that there's going to be a lot of half-season kind of deals here for some of these shows. But look, it was a surprise because of how Blind Spot had fallen off. Because committing to Blind Spot for season 3 pretty much is saying, I want to commit to Blind Spot for season 4. That's why the season 2 renewals are crucial. Because if you renew something out of season 2, you're picking up to season 3. You pretty much are saying you want to renew it for season 4 no matter what, because you want to get the syndication deal. So that's why it's such a huge deal. But that was a little bit of a surprise. And Taken was a surprise because it didn't do great numbers. And it was a show that a lot of people felt just wasn't worth NBC picking up because they think it's going to nosedive even further next season. Ultimately, I think NBC figured, hey, it's only been on for a couple months. Maybe we can improve it. Maybe we can put it on a different night. It could be a mid-season kind of thing. And I think that's clearly what they're going to try to do. They got rid of the showrunner. They're hoping they can get it together and put it on and do something with it and fix it, I guess. But so that one was a little bit of a surprise. Everything else was pretty much a given. It's funny. Some shows that people were waiting on, like Gotham and Blacklist, people were wondering why it was taking so long. Well, Gotham is owned by Warner Brothers, so there's probably, again, some negotiations that had to be had there. That's probably what held it up. Otherwise, I think Gotham would have been renewed a month ago. And Blacklist, again, a show that in terms of live and same day ratings has kind of fallen off. But when you look at DVR numbers, it's very good. And it also has a $2 million per episode Netflix deal that they got after season 1. That's single-handedly, I think, going to help the show stay on for another 3 years, probably. So that's the keys there. But again, DVR helped that too. So I don't think anybody that was worried about those shows should have been. It's like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't think anybody should have been worried about that because of all, for the reasons I mentioned: network synergy, DVR ratings, that kind of thing. So Modern Family was a show that obviously everybody knew was going to be renewed, but again, tough negotiations. Sometimes negotiations hold things up. Otherwise, I think Modern Family would have been renewed halfway through the season. Would have been one of those early season renewals. We don't see those too often anymore, but for some shows that just do well, you get them. So. But yeah, so sometimes negotiations in terms of cast and licensing fees and stuff can play a role in that and hold things up. But among the shows not renewed yet, Blacklist Redemption, Speechless, which I thought was a slam dunk, but I'm starting to wonder because they picked up how many comedies and renewed so many. I don't know where they're going to go. So I think those are the two most notable ones. I'm trying to find if there's anything else that I'm missing. Oh, Quantico. We don't know about Quantico yet. We don't know about Quantico. I think Quantico's gone. I don't think there's any way they can keep that show. So there's probably more shows. I'm just going off of memory here. I'm trying to look at the list and see if there's anything I missed. As far as shows that are on the list that we don't have their status yet. But Mike, has anything so far surprised you in terms of what's been renewed, what's been canceled?
Not really. Yes, Mike, I know you're exasperated too. Quantico thing has not come out yet.
Nope.
Because somebody at that show clearly has a boner for it.
So, yeah.
I heard about ending today. I was at work it came on the radio. Once you got past the scandal, you could have done. and they kind of dragged it. But luckily they so it would be on, I guess. So there you go. One more season, 1 or 2 more seasons. A lot of shows are on past the point of expiration. See Hollow, Sleepy. See Anatomy, Grays. So it's kind of embarrassing, but here we are. It was only a matter of time. Sleepy Hollow getting canceled. Going to happen regardless. It's a matter of time. Last Man Standing getting canceled was a little surprising, I suppose. But money is the in Hollywood. So I'm not surprised, but I won't be surprised if Fox picks it up or if it ends up on FX or even if it ends up on CMT because correlation there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah,
it shows somewhere, but I mean that's all I have to say.
We're waiting on CBS too.
Fuck CBS. I'm not surprised. NBC screwing over another DC show. Going to learn not to get involved in the superhero market.
Yeah, they don't know how to handle it.
And honestly, I don't care about CBS very much, especially after Person of Interest. They threw under the rug, so to speak. Although Bull is a good show, it's a good show despite being on CBS. Although Bull's probably going to get renewed, Hawaii Five-0 is probably going to get renewed. There you go. Oh, there's your highlight.
That's the thing with CBS too. They always have so many different shows that do well that they have to. Essentially, it's them trying to decide what shows they have to cut, even though any other network would be glad to have them. So that's pretty much where they're at. A couple other shows we haven't heard about yet. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. A lot of shows at CBS. Brooklyn Nine-Nine we don't know about yet.
9-9 is it's a Fox show.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm talking just randomly. 24 Legacy, which I imagine is going to be canceled, but because that was a high budget flop. So yeah, there's a couple other ones we haven't heard about yet. So I don't know. It's going to be CBS is kind of the last holdout here. I think pretty much everything at NBC is settled, just waiting on a schedule. I think everything at Fox is pretty much settled, waiting on a schedule. ABC did everything pretty much today. They got a couple of things they have to let out, but and they might still do that tonight and tomorrow morning. It'll trickle out a little bit, I imagine. But CBS hasn't really announced anything yet, which is weird. A couple little things, but obviously the big news early in the week was ABC landing American Idol. And a lot of people wonder how that changed their plans. I don't think it really changed much of anything because apparently it's going to end up on Sundays. There's a rumor out there that they might do 2 nights a week. We'll see. They'll announce it when the schedule. Huh? What? ABC.
That's stupid.
Yeah. Well, I think as somebody that used to be a fan, I think sometimes you have to miss something, and we haven't had time to miss it yet. It's been a year. And by the time they air it, it'll be 2 years. I think they're going to air it in the spring, if I heard the announcement correct. Look, I don't have I think it's something that 5 years down the road you could have revisited. I think it would have been fine. But to go back to that well so quick, ABC's desperate. Look, that deal, I mean, it was Fox and NBC battling, and then ABC jumped in and sniped it. Look, ABC just got desperate. I mean, look at what's happened to ABC this season. If they didn't have their sitcoms and a few other shows, they'd be done. I mean, it's everything that they had, all their new shows flopped. They all flopped. So, and, they're losing Scandal next year, and, if they didn't have Thursday night, they might be in trouble. I mean, they need some big hits. They're banking a lot on Inhumans next year. They're going to bank a lot on American Idol. They're really trying to pick up the Roseanne revival, which I thought was going to Netflix, but apparently there's a bidding war for that. So, they need some hits. They really do. NBC's pulled themselves out of the rut. CBS is CBS. Fox is in a horrible mess. They really there's going to be a lot of people keeping an eye on schedules on next week too, because scheduling is going to be key. I think some of these networks, one of the things that they're going to have to learn is how to schedule, because some of the scheduling this year was atrocious. I know there was an election. I know there was, the fall got wrecked by preemptions and everything. I understand that, but that's not an excuse for bad scheduling. The bottom line here is this: we're in a different era now. People like to binge watch their shows. They don't like to have to wait forever. Some shows found ways around it. Like the comic book shows found ways around it. I wish Arrow and some of the DC shows would do what Gotham and S.H.I.E.L.D. did this year, which is divide the season up a little bit, because they have so much. I mean, Arrow has so much freaking filler for 22 episodes, 23, whatever how many episodes they do is ridiculous. They could have really 15 really strong episodes and make a great season if it's just, they don't know how to write good filler either. But that's what I'm saying though. Like you got to start to tell these shows where we shouldn't have to wait 3 months. We shouldn't have to have 4 or 5 different breaks in the middle of the season. You want to have a season split in half, fine. You want to air a season from September till early December, then come back in January and go again, or come back in March and go to the end. Fine, do that. But you can't go September, go 4 or 5 weeks, have another 3 weeks off, go 4 weeks, have another month off. You can't be doing that. It kills your shows. People have their attention spans can't handle it. It's just not going to work. So hopefully networks schedule pretty smart. And let shows, you're better off just running these shows where, in half season, which I think is something that NBC is going to do, because they got so many dramas. I think they're going to bring a couple of dramas, veteran dramas back in the fall, and a couple of veteran dramas back in the spring, and then fill the other gaps with new shows. I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to split it up a little bit. And I think that's smart. Because you can run these shows uninterrupted week after week after week. I think it'll build momentum and people will be into it. It's better that way. Instead of, a couple weeks off, a couple weeks on, a couple weeks off, a couple weeks on. It doesn't do anything to help anybody. So we'll see if there's any next Tuesday, next show on Tuesday. We'll talk about what's going on with the upfronts to that point. Any big scheduling things going on, like mistakes and big news. We'll talk about it and see what the impact of it could be. Like I said, it's a 2-pronged thing now. Cancellations, renewals, pickups this week. Next week is all about scheduling and seeing how it all filters out. So obviously we'll talk more about this stuff on Tuesday and beyond for sure as we approach the fall TV season and such. So, all right, that's it. We got through everything. That's all I had anyway. There was a lot going on. So the show is over, but that does not mean you have to stop interacting or contributing to our show. You can continue to have your voice heard. We want your feedback. Please continue to send your feedback. Questions about the show and scheduling the show, topic ideas, or breaking news items related to sports, entertainment, or wrestling that you want us to cover. Reactions, comments, or opinions, and things we talked about on the show, things we said. Any of these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And, of course, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook. And then make sure that you like our fan page once you find it and once you're on it. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest information about our show, especially when it comes to scheduling. Obviously, postponements and delays can happen, and that's the best way to get that information ahead of time. And sometimes the only way to get that information. So, of course, we post random things on our social media feeds as well. So make sure you follow us on Facebook and Twitter so you have access to the latest information about our show, among other things. If you'd like to keep up with our show and look back at classic episodes, you can do that in one of 2 ways, or you can do that in 2 ways, I should say, not one of 2 ways. You can do it in 2 ways. You can either stream us anytime on Google Plus and YouTube. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. And you'll have access to every episode we've ever produced for Google Plus and YouTube. That's every episode we've ever produced for Google Plus and YouTube. You can stream anytime. So just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Google Plus and YouTube, and you can stream us anytime and keep up with episodes and all that good stuff. for lack of a better phrase. Also, you can listen to us on the go, or if streaming's not your thing and you don't like looking at us on screen, or maybe prefer to listen to us on the go, maybe you're interested in older episodes of the show. If any of that applies to you, then you might want to check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes, to search for In the Spotlight 411 on Podbean and iTunes. And once you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both sites. We have access to every episode we've done over the nearly 7 years we've been doing this show. That's everything for our original Blog Talk Radio one from October 2010 to January 2011, everything for our Talk Show run from January 2011 all the way up until mid-October of 2015. And, of course, all of our Google Plus and YouTube episodes from mid-October 2015 right on up into tonight's episode. All those episodes transferred to audio format for your convenience. They're all in order from the most recent date to the oldest. They're all available for you to listen to anytime you want. Maybe you're a long-time fan wants to listen to an episode from a few years ago, or a new fan wants to listen to one of those episodes for the first time, or you want to keep up with recent episodes or miss a part of episode. If any of that applies to you, miss an episode in general, if any of that applies to you, you can do all that on our main host sites, Podbean, iTunes. You can search for In the Spotlight 411. So Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, all ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. Again, Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, always keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on all those sites. And search for In the Spotlight 411 on all of those sites. All right, with all that being said, I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike.
It's time for bed.
Thank myself for another great show. Pat myself on the back. And thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. To those that will be watching or listening to this later, thank you to you as well. Thank you to all of you for your patience and understanding as we continue to deal with these problems. That is it for this week. Again, next week, 2 shows. Our next show this coming Tuesday, which I think is, the 16th, May the 16th, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, here on YouTube Live, streaming here on YouTube Live. That show will be a sports entertainment combo show. We'll talk NBA playoffs. Preview, talk the conference finals will be starting, I think, by that point. Any other sports headlines we have to cover, MLB, whatever we have to cover, we'll cover. Entertainment, box office beat, TV highlights, and of course, we'll talk about the television Upfront, network Upfront presentations, anything big that came out of those, we'll talk about them. That'll be on Tuesday, and then next Thursday, an all-wrestling show previewing WWE's Backlash pay-per-view, SmackDown exclusive pay-per-view. We'll preview the matches, make predictions, and of course, address questions and comments from our fans. So if you have a question or comment you want to submit for that show, that's WWE or wrestling related, make sure you do that either before the show or during the show next Thursday. So that, and then again, the week after that, we'll only have one show. That'll be on that Tuesday, May the 23rd. And that'll be a sports entertainment combo show as well. So with all that in mind, that's a little bit, again, reminding you all, a little bit of a reminder to all of you, a little bit of a reminder to all of you, I can't talk tonight, but of what's coming up. So got to keep you up to date. That's the best way to do things, so you all know what's coming. So that's your little reminder what's to come. So that's it for this week. I hope you have a great weekend and a great start to your week next week. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. I hope everybody has a good day and everybody's safe and enjoys. And so hope you have a great weekend with that. And I hope you have a great start to your week next week. We'll see you back here for our next show this coming Tuesday night, 9 o'clock from Eastern Time here on YouTube Live. That's this coming Tuesday night, May the 16th, 9 o'clock from Eastern Time. That is our next show. Until then, good night, everybody.